Anyway, so I'm going to get started because we have some things, fun things to do. So today, if everybody could gather, I'll just kind of, if you haven't already, get some watercolors. If you have watercolors, whatever amount, any brush you have you want to play with, small brushes, just some, just play, get all your brushes out that you would want to use, because it's fun to just try them all. A little pencil is helpful. If you have a ruler, great. Just kind of what you had last week. You also have, I remember, I think I told you a circle template is great. If you don't have one, anything to make a circle with, or just your freehand, that's okay too. Even something like this, like the bottom um, of a bottle like that could make a nice circle template. So just kind of that, get your stuff together. And I wanted to, before we get started, an eraser is also good if you want, because when you're making your circles, especially in the black and white doodles, it's nice to have an eraser. And you can use a kneaded eraser, a gum eraser, anything. I'm using this brand. It's called Moo, and the reason I'm sharing it with you, it's by far the best eraser I've ever had, because when I erase, it doesn't come up in a bunch of crumbs. It actually kind of just really, it's really amazing. So like if I'm erasing, my crumbs kind of stay in one one gummy thing, which is just kind of crazy. It's great. So I wanted to share that bit because I don't like crummy erasers. So a recent thing, and I wanted to let you know about that. So, and I think I got that on Amazon. I get everything on Amazon anymore. So you just want a water container, and I wanted to got this little paint water container, a little rag, and then we can get started. And some watercolor paper, kind of like what you had last week. So I'll just go over a little bit here. I can get everybody to. I'm just going to mute those, everybody. Okay, who's making jingly janglies? Is that me? Just trying, if you could. Hi, Sadie, it's good to see you. All right, great. Everybody's here. Yay. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some mindful doodling again. And you know what's really nice? If you have some music that you can play while you're doing this, it's like the most fabulous thing. Um, I don't have music with, I don't have it because I'll be talking, but I prefer to do this playing some slow, peaceful music. It just kind of makes the experience even more, it makes it deeper, if that makes sense. So what we should do first is let's do our circular blends to get started, and then we'll do the other one, the other doodle. What I mean by circular blends is what I have is I'm going to grab my watercolors. So grab your watercolors, and this one I'm going to try. I always like, I have all these different brands, so I like to try different colors. But get some watercolor paper, hot press, cold press, or illustration board, or your art journal. That's fine too. And you want to just, this is a time to just get familiar with your watercolors, or to try different blends just to see what they do. And you want to make some circle. We're going to make, oh, I'm going to do two circle blobs across, and then maybe 3 or 4 down. So first thing I'll do is I'm wetting my brush, and I'm just going to try some color combinations. And I'll start going around, and I'm not going to mix the color in the tray. I'm going to mix it on the paper. And how I do that is I'm just going to create a little, oops, somebody's coming in. Let me just, Alexis is coming in. Great. Um, so I just put a little blob of kind of a purple that's called mineral violet, I think, and I'm just going to go and take some turquoise and just pop a little bit of, just a little bit in. I'm not going to really brush it in. I'm just going to let it do its thing. I'm dropping it in and then letting the water spread the color around. And if I want to do a third color, I can, or I can, I think I will, just for fun, do a third one. Just pick up a little color. This is a green, a shadow green. I'm just going to drop that also maybe over on this side. And what's great about this is you will see what colors spread, which colors don't, which colors granulate, how they mix together. So it's kind of a nice exercise, but it's also a preliminary to your doodles. So I just made one little circular shaped blob, and I'm going to do another. Now I'm just grabbing this color called opera, which is just a gorgeous pink, and it's kind of a fugitive color. It's not considered a light fast color, but it's so gorgeous, and I love using it. So now I'm going to mix it with a little, what's this one? This one is, I think, a quinacridone gold, and just touching it in, and you could see if I don't brush too much, the colors should just spread out. And some colors tend to sort of settle, and some will spread. And I'm just going to play. Put a third color. I'm just dropping it in. Just let that sit. And now I'm going to do another circle. So make several circles with these blends. I'll do 3 across. And using a round brush is probably the most efficient way to make your circle. Using a flat brush would probably be a little less. You know, you could make a circle, I suppose, with a flat brush, but just not as easy. So I'm just dropping these colors in and making little moon shapes or whatever these are. I'm just going to pull all my colors out and see what colors do what, how they work together. That's 3 circles. So just go across, just get all the colors in your palette and just see what they do by making these circles. And I've got a lot of water on my brush, but it's not too puddly. It's enough so that I can create these nice blends. And this is called Brilliant Orange. And this is, by the way, I'm using Holbein watercolors today. Just got my little Holbein palette out because I wanted to play with them again. And you can use any colors that you have on in your stash. And it's great to test, see what colors do. This is, I don't know, this is quinacridone scarlet. Wow, that's going to be interesting. What happens is with watercolors, you may know, is watercolor will dry much lighter, like about a good deal lighter than, so you can be bold and try different color combinations. But using water is your best ingredient when you're doing this. So we're just going to create several circles so that we can doodle in, and then we'll set them aside. And this is an interesting combination. It's blue. It's a turquoise blue with like a brilliant orange, and it's going to be a strange brown, but it might be kind of fun. I might even throw a little of this other color. There's a turquoise and a peacock. I think the other one was peacock. This is turquoise. So this one's a lot heavier and a much more opaque of a color. But it's fun to see what you can get. It's like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. And this is just such a great way to get familiar with your palettes. And it's relaxing. I did find last week after I did those, I had really a nice time making my finished pieces. And I'll show those in a little while. But this weekend, that's the only thing I did this weekend. I stayed off my computer, stayed off my phone. I even took a bubble bath last night. It was great. And I just did a little bit of painting. I painted my watercolor, my acrylic painting, that once a year acrylic, and then I did some of these, and it was so relaxing. I feel pretty good today. So that's a good thing. We got to take care of ourselves. Sometimes we forget. We get so busy, we get caught up in things, and so if this is a time that we take care of ourselves. This color is called greenish yellow, and I just think it's gorgeous. I might just toss a little of that opera and see what happens. See how those mix. I'm not brushing too much. I'm just putting it in there, just dropping it in. I might do another color, let's see what this green looks like. This is called sap green. Just make some fun circles and I love what's happening with this one with the turquoise now. So it's amazing, unexpected things that you may not try otherwise. If you were working on a painting or something, you might be a little less apt to experiment like this, but this is the time to do it because just having fun. We've got somebody else coming in. Hi, okay. There she is, someone named Kay. So we've got I'll say hello to Kay. Welcome, Kay. Nice to see you. We're just getting started with watercolors, making some circle shapes. This is what we'll be doodling in a little while. So making circular kind of round shapes. They don't have to be perfectly round on watercolor paper with a little, with just any watercolor you might have. And I'm using a round brush right now, but you can use any brush that you might have. Just make circle shapes on your watercolor paper with blends of 2 or 3 watercolors, just to see how they mix together. And you could even make notes if you want. You can make notes of which colors you put down there so that in the future you can use that as a reference, like a color, kind of a swatch chart, which is really helpful when you're, a lot of times you go, oh, that was magical, and then you don't remember how that happened. So it's kind of nice to journal that. And if you have your art journal, what a wonderful art journal it would be to have just all of your experiments and all your colors and things that you've tried, just documenting them in your journal. That's a wonderful thing to do too. So I've got 9 little orbs here, and I'm just going to stop there. But keep going. If you want to keep going, just at least, if you have six or 9 of these little things, then you just set them aside. You'll need to give them time to dry. Then this is why I'm going to do the other one on dry paper. The other thing I wanted to show you. Welcome, Kay. Nice to see you. Okay, so what we're going to do now, and I'm going to just set my colors aside because I'm not going to use them for a while. So move all that out of the way and do just dry stuff now. What I want to show you about this. This was a fun exercise. I'd never done it before, and I just had so much fun doing it, and it really doesn't take a lot of skill. But I made these really fun doodles using a circle template. Let's see. But if you don't have a circle template, like I said, use a bottom of a bottle or ink bottle, or something small, little round circle shapes. However you get them. In fact, I found this one little gadget. I've never used it before. Let me see if I can make a nice circle out of it. So it has these little. It's just like a total gadget, but let's see if it works. So I'm just going to put it in this little circle. I'm going to make a circle. Let's see. Does it work? Yep. So I made a circle. Yay, with that. I've never done that with that. But then you can also use these kinds of circle templates and make a variety of circle sizes. Let's say, here, I'll just move this one up here. Just create circles very lightly with your pencil. You don't want to have too much, because you're going to erase these lines. Everything right now, all the pencil lines do get erased. So I've got 3 here, but you can do as many as you want. You can even do a little tiny one. There's a little tiny one here, or I could try to do, maybe I'll do 5. Of course, I'm getting way too ahead of myself here, but why not? Oops, that isn't working. So this is what I love about my little Moo eraser. It totally gets rid of any lines. So I made 3. I'll just start with that. And then you take a straight edge, and this is how I made these little designs, these really cool little doodles that happened. I took my straight edge, and kind of like what we did with the border. Remember what we did last week with the borders? We had created the borders, and then we did little equals. We used pencils to kind of give us guidelines, and this is what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to take my ruler and put it kind of in the center as much as I can, and I'm going to actually, just in this case, I'm going to do a little, just kind of dividing it in quarters. And that's not perfect, but it doesn't matter. And then I'm just going to kind of give myself some areas here to little, just basically guidelines or guide posts. And I can make lines, which might as well just go across and just kind of create a grid or a circle, something like I don't know what to call that. But this is just giving us some kind of a reference point to make our doodles. We can do it with a pencil, to doodle with the pencil first and then fill in with lines, which is a great way because it's just a way to experiment. So let's say I want to make leaves. I'm going to go here. I'm just going to make a leaf shape on all of these axes or these little points here. I'm going to go on all, and then this can be just go in all of these. Just do a little leaf shape, and using that center line as your just the middle of it. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just kind of play with that. Oops, way different than I wanted it to be. But just go like that. Now we've got like how many petals do we have? Got 7. Oh no, 8. Okay, so we have 8 petals, sorry. So now I've got this general line, now this going on. So now what I'll do, because that's probably all I need to do with the pencil. And now I will take a pen. I've got a fine tip micron. It's a 0.3. You can use a 0.5, any sort of a fine tip pen. And just now slowly and mindfully draw your leaves. And you can make them a little more organic if you want. Maybe not so much paying attention to those lines with the ruler that you made. Just kind of create a nice, just a leaf shape. And you can rotate your paper. Makes it a little easier to make that shape. Just go around, make those leaves, fill those in. It's a lot easier to rotate the paper than to rotate your wrist. A lot better on your eyes, it just makes for a better line too.
I broke my wrist last year, so I definitely don't want to twist it.
Right. This is exactly, I mean, I work so much with my hands, as you probably, we all, as crafters, we work with our hands. And really we just want to take care of our hands, and we don't want to stress ourselves. And another thing we need to think about too while we're doing these, because we tend to hunch over when we're doing this kind of work. So just kind of sit with your 2 feet on the ground, and your hips, everything sort of your weight distributed evenly on your chair. Your back, just be mindful that your shoulders and back are kind of, you don't want to spend too much time hunching over, and just be sure that you're in a really comfortable position when you do this kind of work, because it will cause, it will cause strain. So if you don't. So now with this one, I've got a nice base, and now I'm just going to make little circles, just little 3, maybe 3, let's see. And I'm going to go 3 little circles kind of building on each other from the inside of one of the petals going out. Just going to go to the edge of my circular line that I made with my pencil. This is can be a meditation. It can be, now my line, I've got to make that way bigger to go out. That's fine. So you just want to kind of using your pencil lines as a guide of where to finish your work. And it doesn't, see, I have it slightly bigger, but that's fine. It's all going to kind of come together, because it's going to look really amazing when you erase that the pencil marks. And if you don't want to do circles, you can do squigglies or anything that comes to you, like shapes. And if you just do repetitive shapes, this is also getting your mind, it's getting your mind, your eyes, your everything is. And if you're not talking like me, I am talking, but if I just concentrate on the activity, and there's so much benefit that can be had with this. So at this point now, I can just take my pen and I can do more lines, like maybe in the center, just taking just kind of little small lines going from the center out in between each of the, kind of just like just to kind of shade it with the pen. And another thing that would be really cool with this one is to take colored pencils, if you have those, and just do some coloring with the pencils. It's another very calming, mindful thing. And then color is always very joyful, gives you lots of joy. So at this point too, you can take like, if I wanted to go darker, right in this area between the, just right under that first circle, I'm just going to darken and shade solid area, just kind of to show the kind of show that petal a little bit more, or the leaf shape or whatever that is. Just kind of repetitive and very calming. So that's my first one. Now, so watch what happens when I erase this. I'm going to erase my little circle shape. Of course, give it a little time to dry. If your pen is wet, then you might smear it, but I'm just going to erase this. And you'll see kind of an interesting kaleidoscope kind of shape, or it's just really kind of fun. So I got this nice little pattern just by doing that. And I'll do another one. Well, actually, what you could do is you don't need to use this. Let's do a spiral, because the spirals are really fun. So if you take your pen or your pencil, I'm going to do it with a pen because I'm not concerned. I'll just start with a spiral. And I'm going to start from the center and I'm going to move my way out. So I'm going to just kind of, and it doesn't have to be perfect center. It could be kind of off in the corner a little bit or off to the side. I'm just going to start my spiral. I'm just kind of starting and I'm going to go around. And I might even make it a little wonky on purpose or not. But I'm just making a spiral. And I'm going to use that outside circle that I drew with a pencil as my cutoff. That's going to be where, okay, I need to stop. So I'm going to go around without, and I'm just going to stop it right there. So I just created this spiral. And if I wanted to make it weightier, give weight to it, you can change the thickness of the lines a little bit, or you can fill it in. But that's just a very simple spiral. You can, like, if you wanted to fill in, just give yourself a little weight or change the weight of the line a little bit. Just kind of go over it again on some of the areas, which kind of, I will show you with one of these. Oh, in this page, you can see, that's kind of what I did with that one. I just changed the weights and just kind of play with that. And here I'll do that with this to get my circle line is a perfect place to do that. And you can go as bold or as fine as you want on these. So that's another way to play with use your circle. And I'll give that a second to dry, and then I'll just erase my outer line. Now I've got another motif, another design. So I'm going to do another one. I'm trying to remember. Again, I will use this thing, this little ruler. And I was wondering too if I could use that, if I could find, it shows, no, it doesn't, it wouldn't work for that, but I was hoping. But see, this little tool has some kind of possibilities like that, but I'm sure there's all kinds of templates that you could use. Those drafting templates would be really fun to make shapes and stuff like that. So I'm going to just do a little line here and do another line in the middle. It's not perfect, but it's sort of try to divide this into quarters. And then I'm going to try to just hit it again with, so try to get it an 8. Just do eighths. My ruler is just too short or too long for this journal. There you go. Mine's a little off, but that's fun. That's fine. So now I'm just going to do some, I could do just like, if I just wanted to create maybe a sort of a shape in the center, maybe a kind of a little curved lines. You can do that. Kind of spider web kind of looking thing. And which would be, you could do a little spider web. But I'm not going to do the spider web because I'm not. But you can then, at this time, you can create just anything that you would want that you would repeat around this. So I'm just going to do it with a pen. I'm just going to be bold. I'm just going to go for it. So I can actually do, if I wanted to, just take, let's say, curve this up and go around, make a sort of spiral right in my one of my sections here. I'm just doing that. Now this is going to be a little trickier because I'm going to try to do the opposite. I'm going to start it on this side. And I'm going to go around and see what happens. I'm just going to see what happens. This is
Hey,
really
Karen,
good.
as usual, I have to check out. Thank you. See
Well,
y'all
we'll
next
see
week.
you next week, right? We'll see you next
Sorry to
week.
interrupt. Bye.
It's all right. See you soon, Mary. So I've just made this little curvy thing. Now I've got to try to repeat these, which looks like little eyeballs right now, but who knows what it will be afterwards. So I'm going to probably try to repeat what I did here. Let's see. And I'm going to go like this and just go around and make my little spiral inside that. And I'm going to do the same thing on this one. I'm going to go here. I'm going to try to kind of go using that as a little guide. And what happens here is you get this kind of collide. If you stop thinking about, oh, I want to make it match, it doesn't need to match, but you're using those lines as a guide, and that's what you're working in. You're not trying to make. Let's see if we can get this. Here we go. Did I just do this last? Okay, there we go. Just go into circles, spirals going inward instead of spirals going out. There we go. And we'll see. It could be delightful in it, or it could be a nightmare. It won't be a nightmare because just the activity of what you're doing is pretty incredible. You're relaxing your body. You're focusing with your body, your hands. And now I'm just going to do, I think maybe just a circle inside here just to kind of create a focal point. And I'll maybe even color it in all the way dark. See what happens. And really at this point though, I can do all kinds of things. I could make little lines. So let's say I want to go little lines using my kind of that as a guide, making lines going out. You're just doodling. And what you want to do is divide those lines in half. There, I'm going to just go in half, making little dashes. And then I could keep going. I could do it again on either side of the last line. And the slower you go, you just go slow. And if you find that you skip, you make a little skip, which happens if you sneeze or you're not, or you're feeling a little tense and your pen kind of bounces or jerks or goes somewhere. What I like to do with that, because I want to have like consistency of lines, what you could do is just fill in an area that, maybe here I could see there's some lines that are kind of jumping off of their track. Well, then I can just fill that in and maybe make every other one. I'm going to make or every two. Let's do every two. So I'm making this kind of I'm darkening an area here. And it doesn't, so you wouldn't even know that I'm covering up my little mistakes. So you can do that. Just kind of play with just getting some light and dark going on with your doodles or your patterns. And you're creating these patterns without any thought of, what is it? So it's a lot different than Zentangle, where you have a sequence that you must do. And that's another form of meditation. This one is a little more free form, but there is some structure by you're trying to work within this grid that you've made, the circular grid. So I've got this going on, and now what I might do is maybe do some little circles right in this spot here. Just kind of fill it in using my little lines I'm using those as a guide to make this kaleidoscope pattern. And everything's a little wonky to start with, which I kind of like the organicness of it. It's kind of nice. And then I could just take these little circles and fill them in with either watercolor, or you can just fill them in with pen, with your pen.
Sorry.
Did somebody have a question?
Output level. Yes.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, good. How's it going?
Oh, I'm sorry. I gotta fix it. Uh-oh. Sorry, guys. Here we go. Okay. That wasn't a question for me. All right, so we're just making these, just filling in and making a motif of shapes. You can make all kinds of, just enjoy this little part. Now, you can detail it more later, but just getting, you can make more circles and start your patterns. And then once you're finished, then you can erase the lines. But I wanted to let you know that that's how I created all these. This one here, I kind of thought this one was pretty fun. And that one was, I just drew, in fact, I'll show you real quick because I want you to see this. So here, I'll just do a real big one here. Not that big, maybe that big. I'm just going to make a circle. And I see that, I'm just noticing that there's actually these nice little helpful things right here on this template right here. I'm able to sort of create I can actually have now, I can make a better, much more even. I can actually get that divided right up because I had, the template itself had those little lines that I could use as a reference point. So now it's a nice total division. And now I'm just going to create a pie, try to divide that again into that. See, without it, it's hard to get it exactly right. But anyway, there I go. I've got 8 pieces. So what I did with that one is I just took my pen and I just drew the pie. I just went inside the lines. And it almost, as I remember, it was like, I thought it was like an orange slice, reminded me of an orange slice. I'm just going inside. I'm just creating a line that goes inside this little pie, the pencil lines. And if I do that on all 8 pieces, I just kind of go slowly, let my lines connect with each other. And this is where you just take your time, slowly and mindfully with your pen or pencil, because a pencil is fine too. Then you can go over it with your pen. And pencils are just sort of a softer feel. And maybe just a colored pencil would be kind of cool. Colored pencil you really can't erase, but it would still be another softer, kind of a softer look to it. So basically, that's how I did that. I just made these slices. And then after I made the slices, then I just started to doodle inside the slices. And that's what created that kind of an interesting shape. And I'm trying to see what else I did to make that. Okay, so I did the slices. And then after I did that, okay, in the slices, I see what I did. Within the slices, I just made a little kind of a S pattern like this. I made it kind of a little, not even an S, I don't know what that is, it's a backwards S. But I just followed around the pie, just went around in a circle, but kind of made the same shape in each one. They're not exactly the same, but they're close. Just try to keep the same consistent move. Just a curved line going in the same direction. And rotating the paper so much better. Okay, now I did that. And then the next step was I made little lines inside that. So I'm trying to see which direction I did that in. There we go. Somewhere, where did it go? Oh, it's upside down. Okay, so yeah. So what I did then is I just made actually, I think what I did is I made a second line. I could see what I did. I basically just traced outside and just kind of made another line that just making it a little bit smaller. I don't know if you can see that because maybe I need to bring my camera down, but if you can see, I just kind of made a second line next to the first line, kind of close. And that gives me a little kind of a border shape. Not a border, but it's just another dimension, I guess. So I did that on all of those. I'll just go ahead and finish that. So I want to make sure we have time to do our doodles and our watercolors. I'm just going to do those real quick. And then the very last part, I just took my pen and I made little hatch lines like that on all of those, all the way up. So that's kind of, just so you know, that's how I did that this one here. So that's basically, and then you just can see the sequence after you kind of see this one was done with curves. And so that's a fun exercise. So if your watercolor blobs have dried, I hope they have. Mine are dry. If they haven't, you'd want to hit them with a hairdryer or something to get them dry, and just start working on the driest of all of your circles. So here, I'll just show you what I did yesterday. I made just lines. Now you can do it with a brush, which is a really great exercise. Instead of a pen, this was not used with a pen. I used a brush. So if you have a brush handy, I have to show you my remember our brush rest we made? They come in handy. So if you have a brush, maybe that's the smallest brush you have, but if you don't have a tiny brush, then try using, a good brush with a nice point. But whatever you have on hand, this is a time to work with your brushes and see how they are. So, see how, like this one, I haven't used in a long time. It's got a really long hairs, and I just want to see how they work. So I'm going to get my watercolors, and I don't have any dark colors I see. So I'm going to have to just make a very concentrated amount. In this palette, I don't have black, but you can make sort of a black color by just kind of putting together two complementary colors. So I'm just going to also try this. So I'm going to use a little purple. I'm going to go very dark because start with dark purple, and then I'm going to go across the spectrum here. I'm going to throw a little orange in there and see what happens. That's getting dark, and then I'm going to throw in some blue, and then maybe even more orange is good because I'm doing basically I'm throwing in all colors together. Should make a dense dark color, but if I don't see it right now, I see a beautiful brown color, but I want it to be darker. So I'm going to throw in some blue, and now it's pretty dark. It's blocking a lot.
Could I ask a question?
Yes, sure.
I had to go get some water, but what size paintbrush are you using?
Well, right now I'm using a really, I don't even know the size. It's a script brush. That's what it's called. But if you have a size 2, like a little size 2 round, that's great. Something small, like the most detailed brush you have would be great. If you don't have a brush, then a pen is fine.
Oh, yeah.
Fine tip pen.
I have
Now,
plenty of.
and if you find that you're like I see, I have some pretty darker. My paints are darker. If you have a white pen, those are handy. Let's see, a white marker. If you own a white marker, or white paint works great. Like this is a pen white that I really like. It works great for making light colored lines. So, or if you have white watercolor, if your circles are too dark, dried, like I have some light ones and then I have some dark ones. So it's nice to have light colors, opaque light colors, just to have on hand. I'm going to go ahead and do some dark lines across. I'm just going to do little lines, and I'm going to just go right in I'm just taking my brush, and I'm going to see how thin of a line I can get. It's not as thin as I'd want it, but I'm just going to see. Possibly it's not that thin because I have too much water on it. So I just want to try to make thin lines really close together going across. So just do it within your circle or your circle shape. And using your brush is it's a wonderful, instead of a marker, it kind of gives you a different feel than using markers. The watercolors will kind of layer over each other, and they're just so pretty. There, so I got a little lines, and I don't know if I should put my, I think that's close enough, I guess. So nice horizontal lines across one of your circles would be great. And another thing I like to try, and I'm going to try a different brush. So I know that my script brush makes nice lines. So I'm going to try a little round brush. Like I bought these this is a Neptune #2. It's a little tiny, it's sort of a different brush. I want to try it. I haven't tried it before. So I'm going to make some kind of, maybe some leaf shapes, and I can do it in the same dark color, just because I've got a lot of that dark color there. I'm going to load my brush up generously, and now I could make little leaf shapes, I think. I'm going to just do, in the center of this, I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to start at the bottom at where my sort of blob started, and I'm going to go very thin line, and I'm going to push down and see if I can make a nice leaf shape with that brush. Yeah, pretty good. You could always kind of fix that. And now I'm going to take I'm going to do another leaf right on this, and I'm going to stay within the circle, but you don't have to stay in your circle. You can always go out if you want, but I'm just going to try to control that stroke to be inside the circle. But if not, that's okay. You don't have to. You can go outside. It would look really neat. Just taking and making kind of trying to create a leaf shape. Those aren't the most graceful, but you can always, with watercolor, on watercolor paper, you can always change those shapes a little bit while the paint is still wet. I'm just going to leave that alone because I think that looks really elegant. And then I'm going to move on to the next circle. And I'm going to make kind of like maybe a random kind of lines that I'm going to just like sort of really thin lines. Let's see if how thin I can get here with this. Not too thin. I'm just going to go maybe like a zigzag kind of thing. Kind of a loop-de-loop thing. I just want to see. This is where you get to try. You just flow, make it flow. And this one's going to be like a loop-de-loop. I'm back on just to see how much paint I need. And I'm going to go across here. I'm not lifting my brush up. I'm actually just going in a kind of like a spirograph kind of thing going on. I'm just going to stop right there. Maybe I'll bring over one little loopy shape right here. And I'm just going to leave that. It's different. I might want to I could go back with this with a white pen or something later. So I'm not going to move on from that. And now I'm going to make little, let's see, I'll make this a tree shape because I think that would look really cool with a tree. So I'm going to start at the bottom and I'll make a tree trunk. And you can just kind of remember your tree grows from the roots and it grows up and you have a nice big thick trunk. And then you're going to it starts to split into branches and you make it kind of go thinner as you go. Making a tree trunk, just stylized. It's your own tree trunk. You don't have to look at a tree. Just imagine what a tree looks like. And it could be it's your own tree. See how far your paints will go. And you could just take your branches and go out farther and farther.
I have another comment if I can say it.
Sure.
When you were saying when the tree starts growing from the bottom, I have a video of one of the highwaymen, and when he was painting a picture, he said, "When I draw a palm tree, I think of a palm tree. I don't think about anything else."
Right,
So
exactly.
It made me think of that when you said that the palm tree starts from the bottom,
Right. No, and that's a beautiful analogy or a thought, and that's great for this kind of exercise because when you're thinking of the tree as you're drawing it, and you're not looking at one, but it's in your mind, and then you're thinking about it, and you kind of it's very calming. You know, makes you focus your mind on only the thing in front of you, which is that tree and your brush and your watercolor, and you just kind of go into a different place. You know, a very very peaceful place.
Sometimes your hand moves for you and you think you're drawing one thing, and when you get done, you've drawn something else.
Yeah, that's yeah.
With me anyway.
I think,
Me
you know,
anyway.
that's probably very universal with people who are working, because your eyes, they're trying to guide. And if you do just kind of relax, you can actually create something that's totally unexpected, because you're not trying hard. You're just letting your mind, letting it go, you know, like, so each tree is different. So you can see this one is another tree I made from my head, and it's different. It looks similar because I guess I must visualize the tree similarly, but so I'm just kind of, so do your tree, and then we'll move on to the next one. This one's a little dark, so I'm going to skip over to the lighter one, and I will do something with that dark one a little later. So now we want to do little raindrops. Imagine rain gently falling. So I'm just going to do little tiny drops coming from the sky, just little shapes that kind of look like raindrops. And I'm just imagining rain gently falling, and just kind of, you could do snow if you want, but I like rain. Snow is actually beautiful because it's so quiet when it falls, but the rain is cleansing. So make your little raindrops using it could be a pen or your brush. I'm just using my number 2 brush.
That's what I'm using. I'm using a, no, can't read it. 5, no, a spot or whatever that is. I don't know much.
Well, the brush will, if you have a good brush will, a really good brush will give you a nice fine tip, even if it's bigger, you know, rounder. So just, you know, experiment with brushes. And I'm finding I have brushes that are my favorites. I probably, sitting in my space here, I've got probably 20 brushes, but I tend to go to my maybe 3 that I just love. And the rest I don't really use very much, because I find each brush that I have ever bought will have its own personality and its own character. And the ones that I just happen to that I use a lot are the ones that just do what I'd like it to do. So now we've got the raindrops, and maybe we can do some some kind of lines, maybe more some vertical lines, because we have horizontal lines. So I'm just going to go ahead in my dark spot here. I'm just using my same dark, dense blue, black color, whatever this is that I made. And I'm going to start within the center, and I'm going to make a line, a vertical line, but I'm not going to try to make it straight. I'm going to purposefully wiggle it just a little bit. So I'm just going to start at the top, and I'm just going to wiggle it like, I just made a wiggle. So now my wiggle, I'm going to try to follow that wiggle on either line, going on either side. So I'm just going to go really close. I'm going to follow that wiggle that I had, sort of a dance that I'm doing now, a little dance. I'm just going to do it on all, I'm just going to make that kind of it doesn't have to be perfectly, but just kind of play with it. Just move your hands, make an energy with your hands and the brush. It almost looks kind of organic. So what I might do now is I'm going to turn it around, because I feel that maybe this would be kind of fun, is I'm going to just take now going down, I'm just going to go bring another line, and I'm just kind of making just these lines in my circle blob shape. They're not lines, they're just sort of strokes of the brush. And I see that I could see a little kind of thing that I would like to do here is I'm going to just do like a V, an upside down V. And I'm going to create, it's like wood grain. Kind of reminds me of wood grain. There, got that. So I'm going to let that sit, marinate. don't know if you can see it close up, but there it is. And we've got a little bit more time to do some more doodles, but and what I would like you to do is just to create your own doodles in here, in these last three, and do whatever comes to your heart and mind. And you can go outside your circle, whatever you want to do. But for a little bit of time I wanted to spend with you, just to give you, if you want to add some light, you can use a pen. Here, I'll just use this one. See if I can do this one without creating, there we go. So if you have a pen that has white ink, or if you have a brush that has some white, just some light color, or even metallics, that would be really cool. So I think with this one needs a little something. So I'm just going to put some dots, kind of white, light dots in here. And really just spend time playing. After we hang up today, or after we sign off, if you can give yourself a little time without distractions, without a voice, just your own voice, your own intuition, just create something, just play and fill these circles in, and however you want, however you feel, whatever gives you pleasure and whatever you like, just do. My cat just made a sound. My cat doesn't like it when I'm talking if I'm not talking to her, she doesn't like it. So now we've got these little white spots. So that gave some highlights to that, which I think kind of looks really fun. And I could do the same with this, bringing some light. Maybe with this one, I'll just do some little dashes. And dashes are a very nice way of kind of doing, they're very nice because you're actually lifting the pen up. So it's a little more calming to do dashes, because sometimes continual lines can be a little hard because you're trying to make a steady line. And dashes are fun. They're nice, just nice, energetic, quick little dashes that go. You can make them go in between lines. You can just create dashes in general, and it's kind of just a fun activity to do. And it makes it look really interesting, I think. Gives it some texture and detail. But I can keep going on that. I just wanted to, and with the dots, let's see if I wanted to add some white to these little raindrops, but I won't right now. Here, sometimes the last thing I want to, it's almost 11. So the last thing I wanted to share with you is, let's say you have a blob, kind of like this one. See this blob here? This has a definitive shape going on in the center because the watercolor did its thing. So what I could do is, using that shape, I can actually just kind of play on that shape and just do something kind of like what I call kumomi, which is you just play on the shapes that are already there. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to build a line on the actual, based on the difference between the colors here. So I've got the yellows, these greens. So I'm just creating a kind of an organic line, just like following the shape of what I had already painted. And I could do that I could just now continue that. So I'm just kind of going with the shapes that are on the paint, with the color. And then I can build from there. So that you could do things like that too. So continue working with your pens and your brushes and just doodling and drawing inside your little circles. And tomorrow when we get together, if you want to, if you feel like continuing this or share it, I'd love to see what you've done.